Everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Welcome, and thank you all for being here. Really glad to have everybody for another Order Management Gurus panel. I'm going to get started. Lots to discuss. On a housekeeping note, we're going to jump into this conversation, and if you have questions, you can type them into the chat. But then after the discussion with our panelists, you can also come off mute, go on camera, and ask the questions yourself. So for just quick context for folks that are new to the Order Management Gurus group, OMG is a space for people across the order management ecosystem, product owners, architects, supply chain leaders, technology folks, partners, you name it. Again, it's the space to have real conversations about what's happening now, what's changing, have some honest dialogue grounded in a real world experience. So that's always been the goal of the group. Encourage you to be engaged, pay attention, add to the discussion, add questions, whatever it might be. So it's really great to get back to doing some of these broader panels. In the past, we had to take a little bit of a breather just because end of the year, lots of industry events, NRF, all the usual madness that entails. So felt right to get back on track, especially for a topic that's everywhere right now, which is obviously agentic commerce protocols, and more specifically, since this is the Order Management Gurus group, how agentic commerce actually, what that actually means for OMS. So lots of speculation right now, how AI agents are going to interact with all these different systems. Some of it is exciting, some of it's still a little fuzzy, lots of news kind of changing on the daily. But once you get past that, lots of actual practical questions that underneath all of that. So we're hoping to ask those and answer those today. So again, we have a fantastic panel today, perspectives across retail commerce, tech, standards, ops, whatever it is. So it's going to be a really thoughtful conversation. I will give a nod and quick disclaimer that these folks here, there are folks that, again, sort of believe that AI could be hype. That said, our panelists today are not of that camp. So again, one quick plug before we dive in. If you're headed to Shop Talk next week in Vegas, the Order Management Gurus is hosting a happy hour mixer on the first day, March 24th. Super casual, fun, just connect with a lot of the faces that we see in these groups. So I'll drop the details in the chat, and hopefully we'll see you guys there. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Lakshman Vandayam, and he's going to lead today's discussion. So Lakshman, take it away.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it. Thanks everybody for joining here. Super excited. I think, like Jason said, this is probably one of the most timely discussions that we've had, just with all the churn. It's just hard to keep up with the news. Just a couple of days ago, we saw, I think there was Amazon Perplexity had something going on. And then just yesterday, I saw that Perplexity is now being allowed to scrape Amazon. It's just too hard to keep up with all of the changes. And I'm super excited to be unpacking all this with this panel here. It's a truly scintillating panel we have here. So I'm going to quickly introduce the panelists. And I have an icebreaker question for all of you to address as well. So we have with us Scot Wingo. Scot is a founder of refibuy.com or .ai, I should say. He's a 5-time serial entrepreneur, most famously for this group of Channel Advisor. And he's also, I must say, a co-host of the Jason and Scott show, which I think a lot of folks here might be familiar with. They're one of the most popular podcasts in our domain, I would say. And if you have been following agentic commerce for the last several year or so, he's also the blogger. He also has a newsletter called Retail Agentic. So Scott, thank you for joining. Appreciate you being here.
Absolutely excited to be here.
Yes, thanks, Scott. Second, we have Kelly Goetsch. Kelly is president of Type 17. He's formerly chief product officer. He was formerly chief product officer at Commerce Tools. Again, I'm sure many folks in this group know him. He was the co-founder of the Mark Alliance, currently the founder of the Commerce Ops Foundation. And he's one of the sharpest minds I have come across in the commerce and now the OMS space. Really happy to have you here, Kelly.
Thank you. And thank you all for welcoming me so nicely in your community. This is the first time I've been on the other side of the thank you for your order page.
Thanks, Kelly. And lastly, we have Sid Arigapudi. Sid is VP of IT at 511 Tactical, which is a brand retailer based out of the West Coast. Sid has, more interestingly, 20 years of experience in the commerce domain. He's been in multiple large retailers, including VF Corp, Ascena brands in the past, and he's actually has hands-on experience with multiple large digital transformation programs. So we have Sid here to bring in that practitioner, a lens or perspective into what this looks like from within a brand or a retailer enterprise perspective. Sid, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yes. We were supposed to have a fourth panelist, Jason Goldberg, who's also Scott's partner in crime in the Jason and Scott show. But unfortunately, Jason had to travel, and he was kind enough to actually record a short video for us to get us kicked off. But before we kick that off, I did want to ask our panelists one question, just something that I've been asking a lot of folks as we, in any context. Each of you, if you can just go around the room and tell us one thing or a couple of things that you have been using AI for in your day-to-day jobs. Maybe this week, last week. How do you use AI? How has it changed your day-to-day job and what you do? Kelly, maybe I'll start with you.
Well, one of my last big projects was to use the native MCP plugin for Claude. And when you do that, you can connect up Claude to a browser, and you can then scrape LinkedIn, basically. Now, I was very apprehensive about posting this. I did. It was actually the most viral thing I've ever posted in my entire life. And somehow LinkedIn didn't manage to ban me, which I'm quite proud of. But you can basically build your own feed now, and you can strip out all of the I'm excited and I'm humbled and all the selfie pictures and the personal updates and all of the things that contribute to eye rolling when you're on LinkedIn sometimes. But yeah, that was one of many projects, and I make a conscious effort every Saturday morning to sit down and I learn something new. So that's my routine, and I really spend time with it, just like I did in the early part of my career, where I'd go back to the hotel after a long day of work and study. I do the same thing for AI, because I tell you what, I will not be put out of a job by some 22-year-old who's using AI. Not going to be me.
Fantastic. So I'm guessing we should be expecting a lot more prolific posts from Kelly. Kelly's a bot, at least. Sounds like. Yep. Scott, can I ask you to go next?
Yeah, I was thinking it'd be a shorter list to kind of talk about the things that I don't use AI for. I guess one big one is I use Manus for a lot of like research projects and stuff that got acquired by Facebook. It's still one of the best out there. I never got into Claude Code. It was like a little too much for me with the command line interface. I do like Claude Cowork, and I'm kind of like moving a lot of my workflows over from Manus over to there and trying to figure out what goes best in which system for that type of work. But I use Grok for news. I use Cowork as a thought partner on a lot of writing I do. And I'm going to use OpenClaw to send Kelly selfies every day through LinkedIn. So that's my new project. Just popped in my head today. And just hourly personal updates, like food of my lunch, picture of my lunch, whatever I know will bother Kelly. So that's my new goal.
I think with OpenClaw, we're going to have bots talking, Kelly's bots talking to Scott's bot.
Yeah, we'll have a negotiation.
Right. Sid?
Yeah, I think the more interesting question here, Lakshman, is, I want to ask my analysts, right, what they're using AI for, because I think at the ELT and leadership level, it's mostly summarize this email for me, summarize this deck for me, right? Which is, maybe a year ago, that was, oh, wow, that's cool. You're using AI. I think today that's table stakes. So I continue on that journey, of course, right? Like, hey, I have all of these disparate data points and inputs that come via email and other communications. Put that together and help me put together a nice, simple communication that I can talk to my stakeholders about, right? That's a basic table stakes use case for me. But in addition to that, similar to Kelly and Scott, like I'm using Claude Cowork, not quite in code yet, but we have some projects coming up. And for me to get under the hood, I'm like, you know what? Let me build a website and let me figure out how my bot can talk to other LLM models to so that when we start talking to vendors about these API integrations, I can understand at least at a surface level how those things work, and it's part of that education for me, right? So that way, gosh, I've been in this industry 20 years. Thanks for aging me. The next guy that's me that's getting started is going to take my job.
Yeah. That's all resonates really a lot with me and with a lot of the folks here in this group. I think, like Kelly said, every day is new learning, right? And I think it's very humbling, also a little intimidating, to be honest, right? Because you also see, like, exactly what, I don't want a 22-year-old to take my job away. So there's all of those fears. But I think jumping into agentic commerce itself, I think the first thing I wanted to do is a lot of the folks in this audience, Scott, Kelly, and Sid, are OMS folks. I know, Scott, you talk to Jason and Scott, you guys talk to commerce people all day long. Who have I think, a lot better understanding of what's going on in the agentic space. I thought it'll be interesting for this group to kick off with just some grounding on what is agentic and what does that mean really before we dive into unpacking more back-end kind of implications and OMS implications specifically. So actually, I was going to ask Jason to get us kicked off because he, as a chief strategist on the commerce side at Publicis, I thought he'd be the perfect guy to introduce this topic. But he couldn't be with us. So, but he was kind enough to actually record a video for this audience and share with us. I'll let Jason, if you can play that. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey everyone, I'm super sorry to not be there live with all of you. Due to a scheduling conflict, I had to jump on a plane. And I'm particularly worried about that because I know my good friend and co-host Scot Wingo is about to share a bunch of wildly wrong opinions with you, and I'm not going to be there to set the record straight. So just imagine virtual Jason is disagreeing with Scott on every point, and you'll probably get the gist of my opinion. But I do want to congratulate you on joining this webinar because I do think this is a really important topic. A lot of people are running around acting like AI is a new thing, which is a bit humorous because we're all familiar with vendors in our space that have been using AI in their solutions for dozens of years at this point. And so I always like to think about all the ways in which we're using AI every year to get more efficient than we got the year before. I call those the efficiencies, and differentiating that from this new thing, which is really what I spend most of my time thinking about, which are net new shopping behaviors that did not exist in the world prior to these latest innovations in agentic commerce. And so really, I think that's what we're all here to discuss today, is less the latest evolution of these AI efficiencies and more, how are consumers going to discover products differently tomorrow than they did yesterday? And what do we all have to do to prepare for that change and to enable that change and to benefit from that change? And so to me, that's the big disruption we're all facing. In some use cases, some of the time, that's going to result in the most extravagant use case we talk about, which is human not present transactions or zero-click transactions, where literally a robot recognizes that a consumer needs something and they autonomously take it upon themselves to identify that need, identify the products that fit that need, and place orders on the consumer's behalf. So you could imagine an idealistic future when none of us ever have to worry about running out of toilet paper again, for example, which I know would be a welcome innovation in my household. What I think the bigger deal in the short term is all of these occasions where the robots are going to help us discover products and help us do research and make purchase decisions in different ways than we did before. And so that may be going to an LLM instead of a search engine. That may be using an LLM instead of a search engine on a retailer's website. Increasingly, it could be an LLM embedded in the browser or the operating system, or coming soon, the genetic implants that we all get in our brain that just have those LLMs omnipresent in our life. And so I do think a world where these agents are ubiquitously available is really going to change how we discover products. And it's going to change how we have to fulfill that demand. The role of OMS becomes much different in a world where an agent is percolating up a product that best meets a consumer's needs versus a consumer have to doing proactive research and pick a vendor before they ever get to a website to help them go shopping. So I suspect those are going to be some of the topics you're going to talk about. I'm super sorry to miss them. Kelly and Sid are going to have some really sharp, insightful positions, and Scott's going to have some wildly optimistic, likely wrong ones. So I look forward to hearing how it all goes, and I wish everyone happy commercing.
Thank you, Virtual Jason. And I just made a note there, Scott, that I'm picturing Virtual Jason strongly disagreeing with everything you're going to say in the next.
It's like the little demon on my shoulder all the time. Yeah.
Exactly.
The real question is, was that even Jason or was it just an avatar?
It was
Jason,
because I was there when he said it. It was really Jason. So I think the video, Jason's video framed it really well. There's a big difference between what AI is being used for today, which is discovering products, and what this nirvana that's being promised of zero-click shopping and agents just shopping for us. I want to unpack the why agentic commerce and why we're having spend 5 minutes on that, and talk about not just about. I think we all understand why it's important, and I think that's a lot's been talked about it. Maybe Scott, you can kick us off. Given Jason set already the stage that you're the most optimistic in this group potentially. Why is it urgent? Is this in your mind a 26 thing that really it's going to move past just this people searching to actual commerce transactions happening? What do you see from a timeline, or is this like a 2-year thing that somewhere in the future? What's your prediction? What are you seeing, and what trends are you picking up on?
Yeah, kind of to predict. I've gotten pretty good at predicting things, and it's because I use the past to predict the future. And I started a company, ChannelAdvisor. We helped brands and retailers sell on the Amazon marketplace, which was nascent in 2006 and is now, massive. It's like 400 billion in GMV. And there was always a pull. So there was always getting access to all those new customers with incremental revenue was exciting. We have that today with ChatGPT is kind of the new shiny object in town. It's got a whole set of new users. They've kind of borrowed from Google and other places, crossed, they report weekly active users of 800 or 900 billion, but they're definitely across a million monthlies. And that's part of the draw. The bigger draw this time, and we've never had this part before, which is why we're going so fast, is there's also a push. Think of that as a pull. So there's I want this incremental new revenue. That's always good. So you can never ask a retailer, hey, would you like to get some incremental new customers? They'll think through any trade-offs there, but the answer is usually yes, if it's big enough opportunity. And but you have time, right? You're like, well, I'll kind of see how it develops. It's kind of small right now, and I'll see. The thing that is causing a sense of urgency is the push. And that is, this is not hype. There is measurable decrease in click volume from Google. And folks, it's largely on the SEO bucket. So the free clicks are kind of dying off very rapidly. We have folks in the beauty and apparel category where they're down 30% kind of since the last 6 months in SEO traffic. And that's not because they changed something on their site or anything. Those answers are being those questions are being answered on Google. So in AI overviews, AI mode, or Gemini. So there's like three ways that they're kind of intercepting that traffic now. And that's creating a sense of urgency because I've talked to folks where they're like, I've got I'm a $100 million, billion-dollar retailer or brand in one of these categories, and I have a hole that is a material hole in my number this year because I can tie that dropping SEO traffic to a loss of revenue. And that's created a huge sense of urgency. And that's one of the things that's different this time around.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that makes sense. Sid, I know you are one of those retailers in that space that Scott was talking about. You're an apparel retailer, footwear. You do all of those things. What is your perspective? Do you see brands thinking the same way that Scott's thinking? What do you see the world like from within a brand?
Yeah, absolutely. In the past, when we talked about technology and initiatives, there were large enterprise initiatives that were multi-year. And, let's see, we don't need to be bleeding edge. Let's see how the others do. And then we can kind of come on board. I think with AI, we don't have that luxury. If anything, at 511, as an example, I can leapfrog, right? I don't need to do legacy implementation to achieve these results. So, for us, going back to the customer behaviors, I look at how my parents shop, right? How has their shopping changed outside of the big brands like Patagonia or Nike, or in my parents' case, Costco? It's they go searching for other things that they may not know. And how do they get those results? And today it's Google Gemini is a perfect example. You're on Google and you're like, hey, I need great pants for hiking because you know what? I'm a little price sensitive and the ones I've seen from REI or Patagonia might be a little too pricey. What are the next emerging brands? Because there is so much diversity in the marketplace today. So for a brand like ours, where our core customer knows who we are, this is a perfect opportunity to get in front of net new customers in this new emerging technology. So I know we're probably going to discuss this later on, but it's the quality of our data and how we talk to these agents today is critical for us. So it's not a 2-3 year horizon. It is a now. And how do we get ready with that data? So when it does become a non-human interaction in the near future, and Scott and Kelly, I'll let you opine on when that near future is. But for me, it's let me just get the foundation ready.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. And Kelly, I want to ask you something. So I know like Jason Laffer set the stage here for us earlier on. I think a lot of us in this panel and possibly in this group are in the optimist category, or maybe even like Scott, like Jason said, Scott's in the wildly optimist category. But I do know that there's a skeptic voice out in the market. There's folks that have called this the next iteration of the metaverse and, all kinds of stuff. So what is the skeptic argument here? And what is there another perspective that says, yeah, this is being vastly overhyped, or do you believe that this is real?
I believe it's real. I think the real question is when. And maybe it's my Midwestern pragmatism here speaking, but I think three things are true. And all of these three things point to agentic commerce being a thing. By the way, I do disagree with Jason's definition of agentic commerce. I think it's not just autonomously buying things on behalf. I think a lot of the purchases are going to be the buying through a chatbot with a human actually clicking the buy button. But going back to my core thesis on this, I see the web is a very poor user experience these days. Constant cookie banners, save 15% off your next order banners. It's a garbage experience these days. And also the whole notion of it is kind of dated, right? You're basically going to a billboard that the brand lays out for you, and you have to go browse and map that back to what you want, where AI is a different experience. So that's one. I think web is very clearly dying. The second is we're consumers, right? We spend $30 trillion a year on B2C transactions. Humans like to buy stuff, and humans buy stuff where their eyeballs are, whether that's their neighborhood market or whether it's on TikTok. People buy stuff where they are. And the third is AI is just eating everything. It's eating white collar work. It's eating our attention. It's a better Google. And I really believe that will be a very, very important user surface. So if you take the web dining and being reincarnated in AI, which is a much better experience, much more intent-based, and then you take our consumerism, which isn't, innate to our species. I think those three things inevitably collide and you get agentic commerce. Real question is when. And I could argue this either way. What I can give you is my mother-in-law, who's 72, who doesn't know anything about tech. She's borderline obsessed with her ChatGPT. And I think that's so fascinating how I see it in my own life. And I see the young and I see the older folks in my life really, really attached to it. It's us midlife people who are clinging to what we know. But I tell you, voice is such a great interface. And I see her and I see others of that generation really take to AI. So if they're taking to it, random grandmothers in northern Wisconsin, technophobes, I think there's a lot of hope for this. It's just a matter of if it's going to be 12 months or 18 or 5 years. But look, 5 years will go by in the snap of your fingers.
Right, right. And this is clearly breaking all past paradigms where grandmothers were the last to adopt technology and now they're the first. It's fantastic. I want to pivot to the next kind of logical topic from here, which is, I think, what you said, Kelly. I want to pick up on that. And also kind of starting with discovery that, Scott, you were talking about, discovery being the prime use case that's urgent and out there. If discovery is all moving to these chatbots, I guess I want to get to what is the implication of that, right? Like, what does that mean for commerce platforms? Are commerce platforms dead? Is the website dead? Are e-commerce platforms dead? What does that mean for the OMS? Does this mean that the OMS is already, and backend systems have already been slowly kind of making an impact in that front-end customer experience? There's been this whole idea of expected delivery dates surfacing up way up in the shopping funnel, product availability surfacing way up in the funnel. So what is this going to do? Is this going to push all of that on steroids, like, where, OMS goes even more wavefront? Or does this actually do the opposite and the OMS becomes an orchestration engine all the way in the back and, commerce platforms take the stage? There's a lot of questions here that I think are in people's minds, especially in this group here. So I'd like to start this section with Kelly. Kelly, if you can talk about, as discovery becomes largely chatbot driven, what does that mean for commerce platforms, and how does that trickle down to OMS from an impact perspective? What's your opinion?
Historically, commerce platforms were there to service the brand.com. So back in the 90s, 2000s, that's all we had. And you had a web commerce platform. That was it. And then we started to see these other incremental channels, selling channels, being tacked on over the top of that. That long term is not sustainable. And I think what we're seeing is we're seeing two paths here. The first is there are platforms out there like Shopify and Commerce Tools that are transforming themselves into agentic commerce enablement. And they are doing product listings. They're connecting into the OMS layers. They're basically that transaction layer. And I think that's a smart move. And I think we'll continue to see more of that. There are a lot of commerce platforms that haven't made that transition and they're clinging onto the web and it just isn't working for them and it won't work long term. I think what it does though broadly is it moves the commerce platform into agentic enablement. And then OMSs, I'm seeing those move up in importance because to sell through an agentic channel, you need real-time inventory. And if you're selling on lots of channels and you're fulfilling through lots of channels, and you have thin inventory of any kind, you need to surface inventory and shipping authoritatively. You also need to pass the order back. So there's a collapsing of those back-end layers that historically we've had, and I think it's great for the OMS community, and it's great for commerce platforms that are able to adapt to this new world. I think a lot of the commerce platforms on the market today are just going to die off, though.
Right. So I think what you're saying is these two domains are likely going to kind of more and more merge into something that's, one thing potentially. Scott, I want your take on this technology and stack topic. But also, I'm a listener of the Jason and Scott podcast. And I think in one of the episodes you did last year on Agentic, there was an analogy that Jason used that really, stuck in my mind. He talked about the music discovery paradigm and about how the music discovery paradigm completely changed the music business with the coming in of Spotify. Now, I understand that, and I wanted to ask one question there, just taking it a little higher. Now, what Spotify did to the music business is also it completely, took away the power of the record labels and even the artists to the point where artists who were making dollars on a CD that was sold, they now make like fractions of pennies on every listen. So it's completely changed the revenue model for artists and for record labels as well. So kind of tagging along that same analogy, I would love to get your take on what does this mean for brands in general. What does the role of brands become if all of the discovery and shopping is going to be disintermediated by these platforms like a chat gpt or a chatbot? What does that mean? And secondly, anything you want to add to Kelly's comments on where you see the technology, what implications this has for technology?
Yeah. Yeah. And I use this metaphor. I think of the discovery process as one part research, what product am I buying? And then you go and define. So I've narrowed it down to like 2 coffee machines or something. And now I'm trying to figure it out. And then I purchase. So research, find, and buy. And our company name is basically the embodiment of that being collapsed. So refi, buy. And that's what we think happens. When you see these collapsing of things, it's hard to predict what's gonna get impacted the most. And I'm not qualified, not nearly as qualified as Kelly on the e-commerce layer. I did have Roy Rubin, who started Magento, and on my podcast, and this was a year ago, and he said, I think in 5 years, he has said he doesn't think there'll be websites or a need for them. They'll just be there for the agents to have a place to get information. But he also said, and this really resonated with me, there'll be brands born that just even skip the website and like, remember digitally native vertical brands? Well, we're going to have digitally native agentic brands where they'll just surface the brand and put it out to a bunch of agents. And, we've also had this promise of group buying and things. And to Kelly's point, our shopping experience has actually degraded over time. And I kind of blame retail media networks. Those are the people that really don't like agentic commerce. And I get in these online fights with them. It's kind of fun sport for me to be because Kelly learns things on Saturday. I get in LinkedIn fights on Saturdays. And shout out, we're doing a panel at Shop Talk. I pitched them on actually doing this out in the open. So Andrew Lipsman is very vocally against this. He calls it a mirage or a hallucination. I can't remember. And then a lady at eMarketer, Sarah Metzger, they're retail media network people. And I think they're coming. They have a definition that's wildly different and kind of like they use that as the whole basis of their debate, which I don't buy into. And you'll see all that live noon on Tuesday at Shop Talk. But anyway, so that's one thinking there. The other thing I think that's interesting, kind of to add on to Kelly's point, what we're seeing is, so what we do at Refi Buy, to Sid's point, is we think the foundation of all this, the one thing we can count on, and I learned this in the marketplace world, is your product data is going to be the way you express yourself in this new world. And in the old world, we had very little shopper intent. We had 4 keywords from Google. So you only had to have 5 attributes, and your product intent way swamped the shopper intent, which is just like 5. You had like way more words, right? Now that's inverted. Now we have this much intent and context from the shopper, and now we have 5 attributes. So these LLMs, they want more product level data, and that means more attributes. They want an 80-page PDF for every product. Like if you're going to do the hiking pants, they want to know all about it, right? What material is it from? What country is it in? Are there rivets on the pockets? All these things. But then they also want to know all your reviews. So that's another thing that engines have. And then they have this new, like an infinite context window where they want to know a Q&A about this. And that's where you can take these, I call it product level storytelling. So I think this is actually an exciting time to be a brand. If you're a challenger brand, you can outflank people stuck in the innovator's dilemma because they won't move fast. They'll get locked up, right? But if you are one of these brands, everyone remembers Nordstrom was one of the first to really embrace omni-channel or harmonized, whatever you want to call it. And the big brands have an opportunity to lock in and kind of like, become the next Amazon and not the next Sears. Or the challenger brands have a chance to really outflank these big brands by getting really good at this product level storytelling where you tell the agent and then it's like a little sales rep for you, like an in-store associate. The more you can tell the agent about your products, the more it can represent it to Kelly's grandma when she's having a chat about meeting, some needlepoint there, whatever it is that she's talking to chat about. So I think it's going to be a really exciting time. And then one last point, The other thing, Kelly and I haven't even had a chance to talk about this. This will be like an over beer thing. We're starting to see data. I kind of have this mental model. You have like back end web platform, and then I always live off website in my marketplace world, and we all kind of have to live, refine where we are. Kelly's the only one I know that's been able to kind of like go across layers. I'm kind of stuck in my layer. It's been very horizontal. Well, we're doing some experiments now where we take the things we're doing with product and we can send them down into the e-commerce layer to improve the search experience, because that's turning LLM based or agentic, whatever you want to call it, or an agent down there like a Sparky. And I think we're going to have opportunity to share a lot more of this data back down to you guys in the OMS layer. And then we want context back up. I want to know when people are on that search engine, what are they not finding? What are they finding? What context clues are you getting in there that we can feed in to outside the? So I think we have these data silos broken and start feeding data up and down. That is this product level and shopper level context. Context could include the shopper history, or this customer bought from us many times, and the OMS picked this warehouse and she loved it and gave it 5 stars every time. That's all really super interesting. And I think we're gonna be able to tie this stuff together unlike we've ever been before. And that's what excites me. That's the positive side of this collapsing, is it's gonna get really narrow, and we'll have a lot more opportunity to pass data up through the stack.
Yeah, that's fair. This spot on. I think this leads, to my next question. But before, a couple of things I wanted to say, Scott. As you were speaking, I was picturing about retail media. I was picturing virtual Jason and what his reaction would have been when you talked about.
He agrees with me on that. Yeah, he actually was kind of negative on retail media before. I love the idea. I love the margin of retail media. As a user, I hate it.
Right.
I think it's gone too far. Like I go to Amazon and it's kind of like a puzzle of like find the product now, and I'm like. Right. I look for this one dog treat all the time, and you literally have to go through 85% ads to find it. It's ridiculous. Right. They've hidden it like row 5 in the middle, and it kind of like it's practically where I put my mouse over it and it'll move behind an ad or something. It's gotten so crazy.
Right. Right. Before I move on to the next topic, Kelly, I did want to pick on one thing that when we were speaking last, you mentioned. I think all this means significant. We talk about data a lot in all of this. And what happens to first-party data? That's, I think, one of the key things here, right? Like brands today anchor a lot of their experience on first-party data that they get directly from, the shopper. And now with chatbots becoming that facade, that front end, what happens to first-party data, and what does that mean from a brand perspective?
First-party data has been disappearing for decades. I mean, look no further than Amazon, TikTok. They barely give you anything. So this is just the final end state of that. So either you have none, or you have to pay the extortionist a fee, and they'll probably share something with you. But that's it, and it's quite frustrating. Now, the other side of this is the whole reason you had all that data was so that you could better personalize experiences. But now if the AI chatbot is your experience, then there's not a whole lot to personalize anyway. The data is still helpful and valuable, don't get me wrong. But if you're not personalizing the experience in the first place, the data means less than it did before.
Right. Which is exactly right. And that kind of leads me to the next topic, which is moving beyond just discovery to actually the personalization of the transaction experience itself. When we were talking, and this is something Jason mentioned when we were talking, but also something that I have as experience from growing up in India. I believe in this country before the 20s, and in India when I was growing up, you never used to go and just see the product. You always had somebody, all the product was behind a counter, and you would actually go talk to a salesperson. And the salesperson would understand you, they'd look at you, they'd get a bunch of cues just from who you are, but also from what you tell them. And then they'll go back to the back of the store and find what they think is the right product for you, and they'll put that out in front of you. And if you don't like it, they'll start narrowing down to what you want. To me, Kelly, what you talk about, and Scott, what you talk about personalization is exactly that. That transaction gets much more personalized, where I don't have to scroll through 80 pages of product listings to find that one dog treat that Scott's dog likes. I can, this agent's going to understand what Scott's dog likes, and suggest 5 or 6 treats that the dog might like, and then that whole process would continue. So
if I could add, if you think about how ridiculous our personalization is today, if you go to a random website like Chewy or PetSmart or Petco, it has no idea who Scott is, right? It has to force you to log in. And even then, it might have a treat or something that he likes. Now, an LLM, if you tell your ChatGPT, I want this specific dog treat, it will remember that in perpetuity. And then you could even just set up auto replenishment. So, I
Right.
mean, it's categorically different and better from a user experience standpoint. Sorry, I
Right.
had to interject.
No, no, not at all, not at all. That's a great point, and I wanted to actually start with Sid here. So, Sid, I think there's this whole idea of like the customer talking to an agent, and maybe in the future it's the customer's agent that understands all of that customer's buying behavior, talking to the retailer's agent that's understanding. So it's agents talking to each other. From a retailer perspective, how do you see this, transaction evolving? What are these levers for personalization? I know today we talk about cross-sell, upsell, some things as levers for personalization, but I kind of foresee that this potentially multiplies like many-fold in terms of what can be personalized to a customer. How do you see this changing as a brand, representative in this panel here?
Yeah, Lakshman, I love analogies, and in particular, I love car-based analogies. So to me, it's a self-driving car is on a freeway, and our website is the billboard that's there, right? And the car has to recognize that there is something compelling on the billboard, and the billboard is your e-commerce layer, and you can talk about it's a digital billboard or a billboard with the paper peeling off. I won't make any comments on which platform is which, but the car can read that and say, hey, the personalization that comes into it is what your OMS layer can expose. To going back to your earlier conversation, right? That comes to the forefront. So it'll recognize that, hey, this red car prefers to get their product sooner than later, and we can get it to you in 2 days versus our general promise of 5 days, let's say, because we know where you live. We know your lifetime value, right? So there's degrees to personalization when you're talking from a bot to bot. And to Kelly's point earlier, that bot doesn't need to necessarily sign in because that bot is signaling to our bot, right? That, hey, these are the preferences my customer has, size, color, even if it's not all the way to the point of making that purchase on behalf of the customer, but at least exposing it to the customer to say, click this, I found this, and it'll get it to you on today's Thursday, you'll have it by Saturday morning, as an example. In our world today, at least when I was at Vans, right, we had a 5 to 7 day delivery EDD. But if you're a California customer, our distribution centers here, you got it likely the next day, or at worst the day after. But that's context. Customers who shop Vans knew that and they were able to do it. But if a bot came in and a customer had a preference for fast, forget it, right? That transaction would go to Amazon because Amazon can tell you with Prime. So I think there's kind of layers to this complexity. Where do we start with what information we share with our customers? What do we think is important to our customers, right? It may not be EDD, it may be, product fit and technical capabilities of the product. And to Scott's point, having that 80-page dossier that a bot can read and understand, hey, my person likes to go on 100-mile hikes and they've return these products for the following reasons with these vendors. Will your product perform better? That 80-page product dossier should be able to talk to the bot and say, and yeah, it will. And here's why, right? So that's again, I go back to the foundational because we are in a moment where we can leapfrog by setting up our foundation right for all that data for the agents to consume.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I want to pivot the conversation now to kind of one of the topics in the words in the topic of this panel, which we haven't talked about much about, which is protocols and what that landscape looks like. I know there's a whole alphabet soup. There's ACP, there's A2P, there's UCP, there's MCP. There's a lot of terms out there. Maybe I wanted to start with Kelly. Maybe if you can, and I know you are also the founder of the Commerce Exchange Protocol, which is a foundation, which is got the Onyx protocol as well out there. Can you educate all of us just very quickly on what are these protocols? What do they really do, and how's Onyx different from all of these? Just a quick education would help, I think, this group.
Sure. So I think of the world in selling channels versus fulfillment channels. And on the selling channel side of the house, you've got specialized protocols. Stripe just did machine payments protocol yesterday. Not that the world needs another one of these, but here we go. We see AP2 from Google, very, very payments focused. And then we have UCP, which is Google, that's Universal Commerce Protocol, Google and Shopify. They're making a lot of progress, which is great to see. And yeah, take a look at the link there from Scott in chat, very helpful. And then you see ACP, Agentic Commerce Protocol, and that is Stripe and OpenAI. And those two protocols govern how orders are captured and how they flow between the commerce platform and the payments provider and the agentic head. And then the payments providers are more between the AI vendor and the payments provider. And then I think those protocols are fine and great. Where they stop, though, is where a lot of Silicon Valley hubris stops, which is, hey, we've captured the order. It's not our problem anymore. It suddenly becomes somebody's problem, like our problem. And what you can do is marry up ACP and UCP with the Order Network Exchange, Onyx. And thank you for backing it. Appreciate it. But Onyx is an MCP interface that sits atop 3PLs, OMSs, WMSs, ERPs, and it exposes all of the data related to order management in a neat and uniform manner so that it can be consumed by AI or any other selling channel. So it exposes resources, and resources are things like orders and inventory and customers, and then it exposes tools. So tools are things like capture a sales order, exchange, return. And by having the same interface, all of us in the fulfillment space can interface natively with AI. And it makes it really easy to pair a UCP, for example, back to what we're doing on the Onyx side. And my pitch to all these vendors, we're at 86 vendors backing this, including every major OMS vendor, every major 3PL. We're all backing the same thing. And look, the pitch I made was, if we don't do this, our AI overlords are going to push this down on us, and we're not going to have a choice. And I don't know about you all, but I would much rather control our own destiny as an industry. We do it together from our side. We've got a ton of go lives. We're going live almost every day. We've got a new vendor going live with Onyx, and there are hundreds, if not thousands, of customers going live, going really well. And again, I'd rather us do it than have an OpenAI or somebody like that push something down on us.
Yeah, thank you. That sounds really exciting, and we are very, very happy to be part of that, supporting that protocol as well. Scott, I wanted to get your perspective as somebody that's formerly been a merchant, and now you have RefiBuy, where you're also helping customers. What is your advice to brands, like to brands and merchants? Should they pick a protocol? Should they support all of them? How do you see this world of protocols, and where do you see that going as a predictor?
Yeah, as an e-commerce nerd, I love it, and I've kind of gone really deep on them. But if I'm talking to someone like Sid, he's pretty technical, but so he'll grok it. But they have a business problem, and they want to solve their Google pain and sell in new places, and then it becomes an implementation detail. And their questions are, well, I have this PSP I really love, and my whole infrastructure is built around them. Can I bring them into this? And the answer is yes for both protocols. And then it's kind of like, great, I'm going to focus on my product catalog. So that's kind of typically how the discussion goes. And then my question to them is, do you want to sequence? Do you want to do Gemini first or ChatGPT? And most people say ChatGPT first because it's the shiny new thing. They kind of are already on Google per se. So they end up doing ACP first, but it's not because they love that protocol or they've done a forensic experiment between ACP and UCP and they've picked a protocol. It's an implementation detail for them, and it's our job as vendors to make it so they don't even have to worry about that. If someone at a retailer, unless they've built their own stack and they want to do it, if they're having to deal with that, then we've kind of not done our job as an industry, I think.
Yeah. Sid, anything you want to add here?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, right? I mean, for us, it's what's the problem we're looking to solve. And from a technical standpoint, it's investment in our API quality and documentation. And, Scott, Lakshman, Kelly, you guys are the smart guys in the room. You can help us figure out how to expose that using the right protocol.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
And you know what's crazy about these protocols, by the way, is we have a member of the Commerce Ops Foundation, and they were struggling with the implementation. I went to Claude Code, and I said, "This is the spec. It's in GitHub for the Order Network Exchange. This is the API documentation for this particular vendor. Go do it." That was my instruction, and it came back 20 minutes later, and it nailed it. I mean, it really did a good job. So you don't have to be brilliant to do these specs. You just tell your Claude Code to do it and not make any mistakes, and go grab a coffee, and it's done.
Right. So essentially, Onyx provides that abstraction layer between all of these protocols, and what the OMS needs to really do is kind of how I'm understanding that. Right? Is that right, Kelly?
Onyx abstracts away fulfillment only. Anything touching fulfillment, order management, 3PLs, WMSs, ERPs.
Got it. So
we're the back half of the selling channel standards.
Right. And I think to Scott's earlier comment, the front half of this, which is the product content and all that, is still very much every protocol has its own kind of way of understanding that, and therefore there's potentially a gap there today, is what I'm hearing. Is that right,
there's within the protocols they have different buckets of things they define. In my world, they define a new product data feed, and it's a mistake to kind of equate that to like a Google Shopping feed, because it is way different and way more complicated. It includes all those things I talked about. You want to really expand out your attributes. You want to provide reviews in a very contextual way, and then you want to really spend a lot of time and iterate on this Q&A thing that they want, which is their way of getting product level context / storytelling. And so ChatGPT has a way different format than Google. Google's is still kind of like they're building this stuff in flight, so it's still being defined. And then today they actually you talked about at the top that it's hard to track this because there's so much news. Today they announced 4 new additions to UCP. They have a merchant center coming soon, which is nice. So there'll be a self-service merchant center a la Google Shopping. There will now be a UCP where you can actually provide all this extra ancillary information in a self-service kind of way. Number 2, they've introduced loyalty program support. Number 3, multi-cart. And then number 4, they provided a couple more endpoints. And this I thought would be particularly interesting for the OMG crew here, because frequently one of the most complicated consumer experiences is the variant picker, right? So I'm a size 11 and I want to look at red, blue, and green across, one style is complicated enough, but multi-style is complicated. So my read of this endpoint is you can go get you can kind of call the retailer. So I can call, Sid's, let's say someone's shopping Sid and I discover, the pants in 3230 are out. And I can say, I really want to see pants, and I know my kind of, to Kelly, it's almost like a personalization, but like, look at how detailed you get. My user is looking for 3230. They like green. They're male, and I want to see every piece of inventory that matches that. And they like these colors. Like, we've never doing that on Amazon. Like, nothing's like ever existed to this granular, because that's where inventory really matters, is when you get into the variation map and stuff. So I'm really excited that this stuff isn't just a hobby. You can tell they're like looking at the use cases and making it better and incrementally really moving this along quickly. Remember, this was just announced on January 11th. And they've, so January 11th, they announced it. February 11th, they launched it. And March 19th, they've made 4 big improvements. It's crazy. This is what crazy. I love this part about this. This is going so fast. People don't really I think, have a grasp of how fast it's going.
Yeah, I am. It's crazy. This is exactly the kind of world that we're going in. It's exciting as a consumer because, I don't have to now, to your point, scroll through 80 pages of content and media to find that one product. But as a brand, as a technology practitioner, it's phenomenal, but also a little daunting, what the pace of change. On that topic,
I had a lot of retailers that in February, they're like, this stuff's exciting, but if it doesn't have my loyalty program, I can't do it. Now it's like, basically 30 days later, I'm like, done. And I didn't do it, but I get to talk to it. It's a great time to be a merchant too, because there's never been companies so responsive to merchants' requests. It's it's bonkers. And this is going to make the e-commerce platform people look really bad over time. Even Shopify is really good. This makes Shopify look like a sloth. It's crazy.
Right. I know we have 4 minutes. I want to keep at least a couple of minutes for some questions, but I wanted to close with like at least one thought from each of you on. I know, Sid, you talked about data. I think we've all talked about personalization and data. What should a brand be doing if you were to name one thing that a brand should be focusing on in 2026, in the next 6 months, that they should really be thinking about to prepare for this world that's coming, hurtling fast at us? What should we be thinking? Maybe I'll start with you, Sid, and then go down the line. Like, what is one thing that a brand should be thinking about now?
Man. I mean, it starts with improving our foundation, but there's many layers to that, right? And to me, that's really making sure that our product information is ready and available and searchable. Let's start there. That's something we have. Let's expose it. And obviously, as you get deeper and deeper into that, for us, we don't have a loyalty program as an example, right? I want to be able to provide that information to our bots so that we can have that future loyalty. That's not the way it's been done today.
Yeah. So AEO, kind of concept. Kelly?
I think a lot of executives need to be shown the door, to be honest. I talk to CIOs, CDOs, CTOs all the time, and there's a very crystal clear dividing line between those that are atop an organization and have hoarded power for too long and are protected for the time being, but are not meaningfully using AI, versus those that are actively, I mean, they're using AI so much they have the emissions of a cruise ship. I mean, it is incredible to see someone who's truly AI native, who really gets it, who is automating their entire day job away using AI, and then they're pushing that down aggressively into the organization. That is different. That is categorically different than the light AI use that many are doing. And I think there are a lot of folks out there who still haven't gotten the memo that in 2026, you've got to get on top of this stuff. You just have to. And I hate to sound like a doomsday prophet here or something, but like we are in end times for a lot of white collar work, especially that mid-level executive type work. And people just don't get it. So I think it comes with a changing of the guard for leadership in most organizations.
Yeah, one of my self-written mandates is to get everybody in my organization the right AI tool that meets their needs, right? Not Microsoft Copilot for just this person, for everybody. No, you need Claude, you need Perplexity, whatever you need, we'll get the right tools.
And we're not using carrots anymore. I'm using sticks, big ones.
Yeah,
that's the sobering thought here. That this is not about just carrots and just it's nice to have. What you're saying is this is now a must-have, and you should really start separating out the users from the not. Scott, last but not least, what is your thought? And I have Jason in the back as well. You're speaking for him as well in that.
I want to. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Sid before, but I want to take him on all my sales calls because it just means a lot more coming from a brand to say that you should be doing this stuff. So that's thanks, Sid. That's very helpful. But I 100% agree with you. And I agree with Kelly. Just look in the last 60 days, we've had the kind of surprise change of guard at Target and PayPal. And I would view a lot of that to do to some of the bigger forces at play, but Walmart is like really leaning into this, and I think the Target thing may have had a factor there. I don't know. So one thing I would add is, I am enthusiastic. I disagree with Jason. I'm enthusiastic because it's an improved shopper experience. It's an improved merchant experience. And what I think is going to happen is e-commerce has slowed down to grow kind of in line or flattish with retail. I think it's going to accelerate again. And I think that's exciting. I think we're going to see a bit of a renaissance in the industry where, Kelly's been kind of in the comments, it's going to be a great time for brands. You're going to see more serendipitous purchases. You're going to, as a shopper, it's going to be an amazing time because you'll be able to finally get answers and kind of like get to the thing you want and not have to do a lot of returns and all this hoo-ha that we have to go through to get to the right product. So I think it's going to be, there's a big positive side to this that I will point to. But, I've been accused of being Pollyanna, so we'll see. Jason would say, yeah, but, what if? So we'll see.
Scott, 100% on that. Yeah.
Yeah. On that note, I know we're on time. Thanks all. Thanks, Scott, Kelly, Sid, for sharing all the insights that you shared in this call. And I know Jason Laffer will post a recording of this. Plus, I guess we can share some links to Onyx and to Scott's shows and blogs and all that stuff for the audience here. Really appreciate you all taking time to talk to us on a Thursday afternoon. Thanks everybody for joining and listening in. Happy commercing, as Jason and Scott say.
Happy agentic commercing.
Happy agentic.
Updated. Yes.
Updated.
Yeah, I like
Thank
it.
Be sure to tell Jason that, everyone, next time you see him. He loves it.
Right.
Thank you all.